biggest mistake. I'm blue without your face. But what can I do? 'Cause I'm just a sinking ship, and you're just a pair of lips that I've lost in the moment. All I want is for you to come back. Now I'm caught in the middle of love, and I need.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, Rashid, and this is my friend, my colleague, and my brother, the Robin Hood, scratch that, the Lion of Wall Street, my guy, Gregory Mannarino. Greg, how is it going for you?
For me personally, I guess it's going okay. You look, man, nobody knows what's going on more than you. System's coming apart. It's an incredible thing to witness. It's only going to get worse, but thankfully there are shows like yours that are letting people understand what's going on.
Well, Greg, I was looking at an article that came out, I believe it was by Bloomberg, and they were talking about the Treasury Secretary, I believe, that was the president. He said there is a slight chance, and he said it with a straight face, there's a slight chance that the U.S. economy may slide into recession. Greg, what is going on, and why do these people continue to put up this charade about a booming economy and the economy may slide into recession when we've already been in recession for the longest?
It's all a grand deception, man. It's no different than any other time of history when we've seen an empire fail, when it's in its final stages and or being transitioned into something else, which is, I believe, what's happening here. This is deliberate. We all know that the economy is crashing. Our dollar is crashing. No one wants our debt. No one wants our products. No one wants our dollar, including American citizens. And the propaganda is just going to get even more extreme moving forward. It's just the same pattern of every single failed state before it. And I really believe that we're just beginning to see the fakery, the distortions, even though it's been going on and on and on and on. It's getting worse. We can't get a shred of truth. It's devilism. I mean, to the highest order across the board. And what we need to do, you and I, is and the people that follow our work is just realize what's happening and then think about. I mean, look, this isn't about being an observer. We don't want to sit back and watch these things. We want to say, okay, we realize these particular dynamics are in play, and then what does it mean for us to stay ahead of the curve while most people are being systematically, and I mean this in the literal sense, erased. The middle class is being wiped out from within via the same mechanism. There are three collectively that are working together. The core is three. That is currency devaluation, artificially suppressed rates, vast debt expansion, which is fostering the greatest wealth transfer in the history of the world, right up to the 1% and 2%. Meanwhile, it's the economy that's suffering. It's U.S. industry that's being wiped out. It's the middle class that's being eradicated, like bugs or insects here, to foster a new system of maximum control, as I've been trying to tell people, and you have for 1,000 years, it seems. Neo-feudalism is real. A system of extremes is being created. And unfortunately, people are surrendering. They've literally surrendered to the system. They don't push back. They hear propaganda from the mainstream and they don't do a thing about it. There used to be a time when people held the media to account. Today, it's the media that is again, propagandizing people in a way that we've never seen before. Why? Because they can get away with it. That's why our politicians, our central bankers, our mainstream media here, they all work together here in fostering a great change, which is going to bring about more chains that people are going to be wearing. And the scary part of it is people today are willingly wearing them. They don't want to take them off. They feel powerless. I guess it's a sense of learned helplessness, which is an actual condition. Think about Pavlov's dog, for example. But now the population has been turned into Pavlov's dog collectively, and people don't do anything. They take no action. They believe that politicians, central bankers, corporate insiders have their best interest in mind. When you put oligarchs in charge, when you put the 1% and 2%ers in charge of a situation, which they are now, you see exactly what we're seeing, and they've been placed there again to rape the nation, rape the economy, rape U.S. industry, rape the middle class into obscurity as they control it all, and it's not going to stop. I won't, and the market's disconnection from reality again. The same mechanism entire stock market day after day after day. Again, weaker currency, currency devaluation, vested expansion is the same mechanism, agree, that are wiping out the economy, the industry, and the middle class of the United States. And people just don't see it. They have no idea how the system works, why it works, how it's rigged against them, and then they have no idea what to do. So what we do, you and I, is get little shows out like this to raise awareness, to make people understand that they're not powerless, that they cannot and will not surrender to the system. Those kind of people don't belong here, in my opinion. They don't belong in following me nor you. They belong to be herded with the sheep. Maybe we can wake them up. I doubt it. Unfortunately, I think that these people are done. And there is a natural selection process going on. It's been going on for quite a while. Fewer and fewer people are rising to the top. But I'll tell you something, it's going to be these people, the ones that we can reach, that are going to be needed to rebuild when this is all over. And it's not going to be an easy job to do. Again, the power is being concentrated in fewer and fewer hands, and they're not going to let it go. They will murder, rape, and pillage until they have absolute control over people's lives, their futures, their hopes, their dreams, and that of their children as well.
Well, what do you think about those people who talk about the administration and they name everybody that's a neocon or hawk, and they give Donald Trump a pass, and he surrounded himself with these neocons, these hawks that think on war. Some may think on war with China, some may think on war with Venezuela, some may think on war with Iran, and some may think on war with Russia or China. But they all think on war to maintain empire. Why does Donald Trump get a pass on this when he's supposed to be, quote unquote, the commander in chief?
Society has been divided, therefore conquered. The people on whatever chain they've chosen to wear, in this case, the Trump chain, they can't admit that things are not. If some are. You can see that there's a lot of people that are starting to speak out against it, but they can't admit it because it means that they are flawed themselves and they bought the lies, and they're continuing to buy them, thinking that by believing these compounded lies, it's going to change, and it is not going to change. It's really unbelievable to see this. But look, man, the empire is falling. The empire is crashing. Is taking these people with it, and unfortunately, what people do, they don't care about what happens to anybody as long as it's not happening to them. And once they see, again, their cost of living continuing to rise on the same mechanisms that are wiping out the economy, fostering the greatest wealth transfers they've ever seen, then maybe they'll start to wake up when they realize, I don't have enough cash to send my kid to school, can't buy him clothes. Where's his future going? Maybe they'll turn around, but I think the disconnect that people are experiencing, it reaches a spiritual level. It's not just what people can quantify. It comes down to, I really believe, a spiritual dispossession. I believe that President Trump has aligned himself with Satan. I believe he is a devil, along with the rest of this administration. And the book, which I have right here, read every day of my life, sitting right next to my desk here, it's all outlined right there. It's truth. It's in our face, and people can't face it because then they have to realize that there are forces that they can't control, and the only way to maybe sidestep that is to realign themselves with the source. And this is what I've been telling people to do for, it seems like 1,000 years right now. But they're devils. They're not even human beings. None of them are. They're not alive either. They're sucking life from the economy, from the middle class and everything. Look, the United States is the hub. We're falling. The world is isolating itself, realizing that all these nonsensical, fake stories about, we just got Besson out this morning talking about there's a potential China deal on the horizon. I mean, look, because it realized that the neutral stance with regard to tariffs is coming up. So now say, okay, a deal might be possible. It's narrative control. It all is. And again, it's all lies and deceptions. And that's exactly what we're going to continue to get. Just 2 weeks ago, President Trump said our economy could not possibly be stronger, and it's never nothing's been seen like this before. And what he's talking about is his people. When he says we need a weaker dollar, when he says we need low rates, he's not talking to you and me. He's talking to the 1% and 2%ers who, via this mechanism, are raping the United States into obscurity and an erasure of everything. And this is, again, it's about people becoming subservient to the system, slaves to the system, dependent on the system, and they've thrown their hands up. And instead of taking action, they just don't know what to do with themselves. So they're stuck in some corner, sucking their thumbs off. Meanwhile, like I said, they're losing it all. And they can't stop. They can't reconcile that the person that they put their faith in is a criminal, a pedophile, quite obviously, is doing nothing but lie and deceive and continue to do so. And I also believe, look at the man looks like. He's rotting right before the public. His body is deteriorating. It's a fact. He's literally, I believe, under the judgment of God, and he's coming apart as a public display. That's really what this is all about. And unfortunately, we've seen this before throughout history. In nations fall, people perish by the millions. We are going to face a moment like that, a resource problem, which we're already seeing. Not a single policy put in place by this thing, Trump, not human entity, is helping the United States whatsoever, on any level whatsoever. Nothing's being put up to stop the surge of inflation. The rising cost of living for people, the fostering of the greatest wealth transfer is in full effect, and the people are paying for it. And this is exactly what's going on.
Do you believe that the reason that some of them are almost cult-like in their belief for what Trump is saying and what any of the administrations would have said is because they prefer illusion to despair?
It is a cult. That when people become spiritually dispossessed, they will follow anything into wherever they go, into the pit, if necessary. Human psychology is a very complicated subject, and some people are susceptible to hypnotic suggestion. For example, they believe the lies when something is repeated over and over and over and over and over again. Like, for example, President Trump says, believe me, believe me, believe me, believe me, believe me. People believe it, no matter what it is, no matter what the lie is, the deception or the distraction is. The man is the devil. There's no doubt in my mind. He does not serve the God that you and I serve. And people are choosing to serve him as opposed to serving God himself. And you can't serve two masters. We know that as well. So these spiritually dispossessed people will follow their cult leader to their own death, their own demise, and that of their family and their children. We've seen this before. Never a mass hypnosis, I think, like we're seeing now, but half the nation realizes that there's a problem. And out of that half, there's maybe 1% that actually are doing anything about it. But it's that 1% that I believe are the ones that are going to have to lead the way moving forward. And people just need to embrace it, realizing that that's unfortunately the way it's going. And this is not new. We've seen this throughout history over and over again. We've never seen it here in the United States to the degree we have now. But it's really it's more than anything else. It's a spiritual war that we're seeing here, and the devils are running the show.
Well, Greg, a few days ago, or maybe a week or so ago, there was a big brouhaha about Trump and Vance taking on the Fed, and how, and I knew this would get you. Go ahead and tell us what is really going on behind the scene, and tell
What are
us.
It's too simple. What does Trump want and Vance? What does the Federal Reserve want? The Federal Reserve wants to inflate. Every single bank has a single power. That is their ability to inflate. When you have a sitting president and vice president saying we need a weaker dollar, how does that help we the people? It doesn't. Our cost of living is skyrocketing. Our economy is dissolving. In finance and economics, there are only, and I'm going to repeat this for the millionth time for everyone, there's only two fundamental truths. You can take the entire spectrum of finance and economics, every little facet, it only boils down to two things. Number one, to have a strong nation and a strong economy, you need a strong currency. So when you hear a president, a vice president, or a central bank whose product is debt, currency being even that's saying we need a weaker dollar, you know they're working together. They both want the same thing. Artificially suppressed rates. Nothing could make a central bank happier than keeping rates suppressed, which means they got to devalue the currency moving forward, vastly expand the debt. Again, think big, beautiful bill. There's never been in the history of this nation, go back to George Washington, a president that's been a better friend to the Federal Reserve. They want the same things. If they want, it's a show. It's bread and circuses here. The so-called battle, which we're going to see really get going tomorrow when the Fed does cut rates. Oh, it's not enough. President Trump has demanded hundreds of basis points lower with regard to the federal funds, which could put us all into a negative rate environment, meaning people have to pay for the privilege of keeping their cash in an institution. It's an incredible thing. So the alignment here between Washington and the Federal Reserve, who's the real government, who funds it all? What do we have? We don't have the cash for any of this thing. When Trump wants to buy, let's say, a stake in Intel, which we just did, for example, in July, just recently, he's got to get on the phone with Powell, say, listen, I need the cash for this. Powell says, how much do you need? And he sets it aside. It's a game that they're just playing here. It's not real. It's staged, everything. They already have their scripts. Trump has his, Powell has his. It's a mechanism of deception on a massive scale. So again, realizing that central banks, their power resides in one thing, their ability to inflate. When you have a sitting president and vice president saying, we need a weaker dollar, the Federal Reserve, they couldn't be happier to hear that. It means they get to print more of their digits, add digits to a screen, inflate the system here, makes them stronger exponentially. Artificially suppressed rates. How does the central bank keep rates suppressed? Can't just say it. It's not a magic trick. They have to create the currency out of nothing, which is obviously purchasing power negative, get into the debt market and buy the debt, and then explode the debt here. This is, again, the end phase. So you have President Trump, Vance on the same page as Federal Reserve. Meanwhile, for the public, who has no idea how this works, they're putting on their little show. It's another grand deception by devils, and that's all it is. And it will lead to, what is it doing here? Record highs for the stock market, counting on more easy money, dissolving the purchasing power of the currency, wiping out the economy. U.S. industry is dying. Consumers don't consume. So if consumers can't consume, what happens? Factories don't produce. Factories are dying. President Trump's big lie, we're going to kill the dollar more. Cheers from the crowd. Meanwhile, they don't think, well, hold on a minute. Weaken the dollar more. That means it would cost me $1 last week. It's not going to cost me $2 this week. They don't think that. See, people never generally look out for their own best interest. They look at a cult leader like Trump, for example, who's way worse than a cult leader. He's a devil. And then they throw all their faith in him, obviously in the wrong place here. Can't serve two masters. Serve that guy. Meanwhile, forgetting about everything else. We've been warned about all this. This is just an unfolding of events that have been foretold to us. And it's going to get much worse from here as the system is dissolved. And the 1 and 2 percenters this is their golden age, their alignment with the central bank. Trump being one of the top of the food chain right now. He has turned the Oval Office into a cryptocurrency empire for him and his sons. There's no legislation. There's not a single lifeline being thrown out to our nation. Again, we would need to strengthen the currency, not weaken it, to rebuild our economy from the bottom up. If anyone would just take a moment to just open up a window and say, okay, is Greg right? When were the most prosperous times in the United States economy? Is it a time of artificially suppressed rates in a weak currency or higher rates in a stronger currency? People don't know these things. So obviously, when the currency is stronger and much higher rates, that's when our economy booms. What we're seeing now is a deliberate takedown of the system. This is no accident why we're here.
Do you believe that they're getting desperate now with the emergence of BRICS and other alternative monetary systems? Do you believe that the United States is now acting more irrational because they see the emergence of something outside of their total power, or do you believe that it is all one facade?
The 1 and 2% has realized the United States has done. They realize the alliances that are going on around the world here to sidestep the dollar, to sidestep U.S. trade and everything else. So what are they doing here? They say, okay, we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to pillage the United States while it falls, rape it, take everything they can, and then get out, while they leave everyone else here. That's what this is all about, the fall of an empire, period, the end. And the only thing that the United States can do, again, to keep the illusion going is kill the currency further, artificially suppress rates, vastly inflate the debt, make sure they fund wars, which were supposed to end on day one, make sure prices stay inflated by killing the dollar, again, also supposed to end on day one. You can't make any of this stuff up. But this is what people, I've warned people, excuse me, about trap doors being set for them for as far back as you want to go, and they willingly just walk right through them. They fall right through them. And this is how it works. People have chosen to not think and just follow. They become sheep on a grand scale. Not people who follow our work. People follow our work, I think, get it. But we need more. We need a lot more people like those who follow our work to understand what's happening. And look, man, we're not sitting here just talking for fun. We're sitting here because I want people, and so do you, to do something about it. Not just sit back, to take action, go to Truth Social and blow it all up. Look at the play on words here. Truth Social. It's all lies. Everything. There's not a single truth. The man can't tell the truth. It's impossible to do. When you, of course, align yourself with dark forces, it's nothing but lies that can come out of your mouth. Cover-ups, deceptions. That's all. If we had a real leader, the first thing that we could fix this as of now. We could still fix this, although we're probably very close to the edge. We need to, again, the bottom line is return purchasing power to the currency, not take it away as Vance and Trump are calling for. We return purchasing power to the currency. The consumer can start to consume. Our factories wake up. We start rebuilding our economy from the inside. The mechanisms that are in place guarantee that this will get much worse.
So what do you say, and how is that connected to the Ukrainian war, the pivot to Asia, the warships off of the coast of Venezuela? How is all that connected, Greg? Because it is connected.
It's all connected, of course. Funding for wars will never stop. War, the acts of war, kinetic activity here, build up to war, feeds the military-industrial complex. How the whole system functions on credit and debt. That's what we have. And now it seems more so than ever, more propaganda, more lies and deceptions. But of course, it all ties in together. And, it's not going to stop. I explained this to people as we were moving into the presidential selection. Oh, Greg, you're wrong. Wars are going to end on day one. Trump does what he says. I said, no, they won't. They're going to go on, and they're going to go on and on and on. And any other thing you could think about, I said this then, and I say it again here, is going to continue to inflate the system. If that an inflating system involves what? Killing the currency, creating more out of nothing, borrowing more cash into existence on an epic scale. Again, think Big Beautiful Bill. They laugh at us. Big Beautiful Bill. They use a title like that to laugh at the same people that are supporting the thing, Trump. Okay. If Biden was doing something like this, they'd go crazy. But it's unbelievable, really. Merging corporations here. The Trump state capitalism is what they're calling it. Merging corporations with government. The same corporations that are going to be issuing stablecoin tokens that people are going to be forced to transact in. Trump signed this into law in July. The Stablecoin Genius Act. Again, their book dictates they have to tell you first. Remember Trump calling himself a stable genius? Even if it's code. Stablecoin Genius Act. It's all coded. They do this, or invariably they tell people first. When you hear a president say, "Well, we need a weaker dollar, we need a weaker, we need artificially suppressed rates," do people say why? No, they don't. They just hear these words, and some reason because it's coming out of some authority figure who's rotting before our very eyes. They think it's the right thing to do. It's saying, "Hold on a minute, my cost of living is skyrocketing. Why do I need a weaker dollar? Oh, because that's going to make our products cheaper overseas." This is the lie. And then the people are going to jump for joy for American products. And then our factories are going to wake up now. It's an epic lie. I exposed it at the time. I'm re-exposing it now. Greg, you're wrong. President Trump is smarter than you because he's a businessman. Trump is not a businessman. Trump is a real estate investor. That's all he is. He did not make his money in business. Trump condoms. Yes, he has condoms for sale. Trump steaks failed. Trump airlines failed. Trump casinos, 3 of them failed. You name it. The man has had more failed businesses in history. He's not a businessman in any way, shape, or form, and he has no idea how to run a nation. He knows how to run it into the ground, along with the people that are around him, all multi-billionaires, extorting whatever they can out of the nation while it's being flattened out. That's what we have here, and this is what people chose. They had no choice. There was no election here in the United States, and there never will be again. And Trump already said that. As the run up to the last election. So I mean, again, another tale that they tell these kind of people, aligned with forces that are very, very dark. And again, they tell you the truth, and then they think people don't hear it because again, it's about free will. If people push back even just a little bit, they can't do it. But people don't push back. People have become again divided and therefore conquered. They don't push back. Don't know how to push back. They don't know what to do with themselves anymore other than suffer and surrender. It's a terrible thing.
And why do you think that the people think that he is for them when he has surrounded himself with 14 billionaires? I mean, 14 billionaires in his administration, and yet he's for the people. How could they even buy that garbage?
Because they've been deceived, and they refuse to believe they've been deceived. It's an amazing thing to think about. So-called evangelicals are the ones that really back Trump. A man who is a pedophile, a rapist, a convicted felon on multiple levels. This is the guy they thought, really, because again, what did he do? He lied. Oh, this is a left lie. It's this. And he deceived them all. They were all deceived, and they will continue to be that way. The easiest people to trick, in many ways, are those who blindly follow something like this, and even though in the book, in our book, it warns of all of it. They ignore it. This is again coming down to serving 2 masters. It just can't happen, unfortunately. And this is why we're in the situation we're in, and this is why it's going to get a lot worse from here. I think America is falling because again it's lost its connection to the source at its core, and I believe unfortunately that it's too late. I think judgment has already been passed, and you can see it in President Trump rotting. You can see the nation rotting. You can see morality rotting. You can see the economy rotting. It's rot everywhere. The system is rot across the board.
And you said before when you and I talked, you said that and I have to keep bringing this up because it is becoming more and more apparent. You said that what will take place economically will be biblical, and you said that it would cause as many deaths as if someone let go a nuclear bomb. Are we approaching that stage right now of the economic rot of the system and the economic collapse of the Western world?
The United States economy is in collapse, and the more they tell you it's not, the more we know it is. What we're going to face is basically going to come down to resources. And I put a paper out about this many years ago. Global debt in the human bubble. They continue to pull debt into the system. The system is illiquid. We're going to face a credit freeze, a locking up of the system. The system is dependent on a constant inflow of more debt into the system, which is obviously currency purchasing power negative. People are being dissolved from the inside. We could fix it all. Still, by returning purchasing power to the currency. The whole, going back to Trump and the Fed, Trump could end the Fed today in 7 seconds. The Gold Reserve Act of 1934 has to be signed into, it's already there. It just needs a signature, which would end the Federal Reserve. President Trump could revalue gold at whatever he thinks the price should be. Obviously, we know it's massively suppressed by exponents. Let's say he picks $50,000, $60,000 an ounce, which is more like reality based on the global debt situation. Could be even more than that. Reprice it at fair value instead of having the Crimex or the Comex run their paper derivative scan. So let's say President Trump says, okay, okay, Greg, let's end the Fed today. 7 seconds. By the time he signs his name on the Gold Reserve Act of 1934, the Fed dies. The Fed dies immediately, not a slow death, instant death. Their debt-based system goes up in flames. We return purchasing power to the currency, back it by gold. The entire world would be shocked by this. It would vault the United States back into the powerhouse it once was. But instead, you got all these alliances going on. The rich are raping our nation. It's too simple to see that the game. If Trump's games with the Fed were real, he could erase them with his signature by the time he finishes it, 7 seconds. But that's not happening. All he's doing is working with the Fed, making sure they get stronger, they can inflate further, they can buy more debt, and they can therefore issue more debt, which is the goal. We're done. The United States can't function with keeping rates artificially suppressed so they can continue to borrow. Continuing to borrow, again, kills the currency purchasing power, allows the 1% and 2% who get the newly printed cash first, while it still has purchasing power to use it. And by the time it trickle down economics is the biggest lie in the history of the world. By the time it trickles down to the regular guy or the regular girl on the street, there's no purchasing power left. And that's how they lose. This is why the mechanism must and will continue. We will not go back to a gold standard. Again, that would take power away from the central banks and the 1% and 2%ers and return it to the people. Never happen, ever. Not in this lifetime. We're all going to have to, unfortunately, live through some very, very, very trying time moving forward. I believe the full collapse of the system isn't so far off here, but they're not done. They're not extorting control. They have to get people so desperate that they will accept anything. They need to bring the general population to its knees first. Problem, reaction, solution is always the same. And this is exactly what they're going to do moving forward.
Well, do you believe that because the system feeds on debt, that there'll be more war, more justification for war? And how far do you think this thing will go before it totally implodes? Because if the system relies on debt, that means that it needs to expand constantly, which means that it needs to gobble up more nations' economies and resources and stuff. So where does that put the world?
Well, the United States is the hub, and the whole world is facing the same issue. Henceforth, why you got developments of, let's say, the BRICS, for example, and other alignments that are being made. Every nation, including ones that we have so-called deals with, we don't have one comprehensive deal. President Trump has not yet put forth one comprehensive deal, trade deal for the United States. Everyone involves U.S. citizens paying the import tax, tariffs. And this is why President Trump is now calling for economic reports to be cut in half. For example, reported earnings from these companies who report every quarter. Now he's saying, oh, you know what, maybe we should just do this twice a year. More cover-ups, more deceptions. And what it also means is information will be available to the insiders. It's a way to, again, trick the public. But look, understanding that the system functions on debt expansion, it's not going to stop. So what will happen is the economy will continue to suffer until it hits a halt. The halting moment is going to be a credit moment. Everyone's looking at the stock market. I wrote a paper on this just last night, and I finished it this morning. I just put it out in my Substack. Everyone's looking over at the stock market, record high, which I said was going to happen over and over again. It won't stop. The mechanism here of currency devaluation, artificially suppressed rates, and debt expansion is going to propel the stock market. It could be much higher. We're going to see the 10-year yield drop below 4%. It already has been flirting with it. In fact, it did drop below 4 very briefly, just a couple of days back. Last week, I believe it was one day. It's back higher last time I looked at it. We're going to see that fall further here and a lot more as, again, the Fed starts its, I don't even want to say new, expands its quantitative easing cycle. Quantitative easing is emergency monetary policy. It's instituted when an economy is crashing. Like, for example, the financial crisis. During the financial crisis, the economy was basically shut down into business lending was stopping. That's why they started pumping trillions into the system to free up the credit markets. But that's really what we're going to face again, a locking up of the system where all transactions stop. And it'll be at a time of their choosing. They're going to continue to keep rates artificially suppressed, kill the currency, and inflate the debt until there's a moment when they're ready, when they say this is the moment where we have enough people dependent on the system where we could institute Trump's stable token monetary system, which he just signed into law. The stablecoin tokens system, completely unconstitutional. But again, it doesn't matter when you have a deranged devil running the system. He can do whatever you want, and his minions just bowing down to him as if he's some kind of a god or something along those lines. But the credit freeze, it means all transactions stop. And that's where it's gonna come down to. We're eventually going to see a meltdown in the debt market that's going to spin people's heads around like The Exorcist, man. We're going to see a spiking of yields across the board. This is when, again, right now, the situation is this. You got the U.S. Treasury now issuing debt through one door, buying it back through another door, being funded by the Federal Reserve, buying it all. The Fed itself issuing debt through one door, buying it back through another door. Because natural buyers of U.S. debt are gone. We're talking about funds. We're talking about nations here. Even private investors want nothing to do with it anymore. So the natural buyers of debt are gone. It's come down to what I have warned would happen for over a decade, that the Federal Reserve would be the lender and buyer of last resort, and that's who they have now become. And with that mechanism of continuing to inflate, being called on to inflate by the president and vice president of the United States, it just it exacerbates the pillaging of the economy, the U.S. industry, and the people itself. And this will go on until a moment when, again, think about this. If it weren't for the Fed and the Treasury now tag teaming the market because there are no buyers left of U.S. debt, we would stop. It would all cease to function. If bond yields were allowed to have the real market dictate fair value, do you think we would have a 10-year yield at 4%? It would be 50%. Who knows what it would be, because the risk would be so great. Who in their right mind would buy a bond, for example, that pays 4% when the real rate of inflation is probably closer to 50%? You have to be literally brain dead to do it. This is why, again, it's central banks, it's the Treasury here buying it all. The 1 and 2%ers are loving it. And again, fostering the greatest wealth transfer that I've been seeing in the history of the world. That's where it's at. And it will not stop until the time of their choosing, when the Fed stops buying the debt along with the Treasury. Right now, they're controlling the yield curve via the mechanism of issuing debt, buying it back, of course. This yield curve control and currency devaluation, along with debt expansion, opens up a doorway for cash to make its way into the stock market. Record high, record high, record high, record high, record high, record high, like we're getting now. And the other part of this that's kind of echoing the past, and I talked about this again in my paper I wrote this morning, is when you have a handful of companies that are supporting the entire market, it's not a market that's stable. A market that's stable needs to have wide breadth. In other words, there should be a lot of companies, many companies that are supporting the market. When you have a handful, for example, like the Mag 7, basically supporting the entire market, it's fragility. It's not stability. And all it will take is one of these mega companies here to experience a hiccup. It'll take down the whole system. But until that day, until the time where liquidity is in artificial support, with the Fed backing up everything, the Treasury now buying back its own debt that it issues here. I mean, no business can function like this. Any successful business cannot function like this. By artificially propping up the system with more debt, no productivity. We don't produce anything. What we're producing here is more debt, and the world's frankly sick of it. Henceforth, why the world doesn't want our dollar, the world doesn't want our bonds, our debt anymore. They don't want it, and that's why the Fed and now the Treasury have had to step in here to backstop the entire thing. This is it. This is the fall of the empire, and people walk through time and space outside as if everything's just fine, because they believe it. President Trump's telling them how strong our economy is. They've never seen anything like it before. This is just 2 weeks ago. Meanwhile, it's all coming apart. They have to lie. They have to deceive. They have to deflect.
Excuse me. So in layman's terms, for those who are Greg says the Fed is the crack dealer smoking his own crack. That's what he says.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so, Greg, back to something that you said about a credit freeze. If there's a credit freeze, that means that shipping, trucking, transportation, all of that stops, which means that stores can't get goods. That means lots of layoffs of firings. That means massive closures of stores. That means banks can't be repaid what is owed, which means that they will go belly up. That means pandemonium, pretty much economic pandemonium across the United States and the Western world specifically at this moment. Isn't that a Mad Max like scenario or something?
A credit freeze means all transactions stop. Swipe your debit card, it don't work. Swipe your credit card, it don't work. You go on your bank account, zeros across the board. That's it. It's the party over. Henceforth, this is what was starting to unfold in 08. Why Bernanke was rushed in. Why he said we have to, over the weekend, to our loving, caring representatives, we have to start pumping trillions into the economy, or we won't have an economy. The market already fell by 50% at that point, the stock market. He wasn't saying we wouldn't have a stock market. He said an economy. He's on record. You can see it for yourself. Just look it up. So that's what would happen here. Pandemonium in the streets. And of course, they're going to have a solution for it. They already have it. President Trump just signed it into law. When we are moving right into a tokenized system, tokenization across the board, where every asset, everything you can imagine is going to be reduced into a tradable asset. Even your life expectancy, for example, my life expectancy, your children, side bets, derivatives associated with it. It's an incredible thing where this is going. We don't have a real system in any way, shape, or form. It's built on an illusion of credit and debt. Credit it's the lifeblood of the system. Once it stops flowing at a time of their choosing, this won't be a random event, and we can watch it. No one has to guess. All you got to do, again, everyone's googly-eyed looking at the S&P, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, not even the S&P 500. Look at the Dow, 30 companies. Everyone's looking at the Dow for a big clue. When's the market crash going to come? They're not going to see it. They're all going to miss it. It's the debt market. The debt market is the key, because the debt market is the driver of everything else, meaning that even the entire stock market itself becomes a derivative. It's deriving value from action in debt market, therefore it's a derivative. And that means that it will fall. The debt market is going to be where it starts and ends. And the collapse in the debt market is going to be so absolutely total and so absolutely complete. It's going to leave nothing but scorched earth in its wake. And people are going to walk around like zombies wondering what happened. But again, thankfully, people have tuned into this show. I don't know how many are listening. Hope a lot. If not, they should hear it. We should get it out there, and people need to hear this stuff. Understand what's going on. I think most of the people that follow our work, they get it. What we're trying to do is reach out to more. What I'm hoping people are going to do here is share the work. Get it out there. Take this interview we've done, this talk that we've done, and let people listen to it. And if it makes sense to them, great. If it doesn't make sense to them, that's fine too. Again, we're not going to be able to get through it, everyone. There's no way. And we shouldn't even, it used to drive me nuts to think, how can people not see it? Because they've been blinded. They've been deceived. It's over for them. Their mind has been taken over. Their spirit has been replaced with some kind of demonic entity. And that's where Trump himself is. He represents the darkest forces in the universe here. And we believe, people who follow our work, who are able to see through it, see the light in what we're saying here. So hopefully this will carry them through.
So this is the fall of America.
It's the fall of America. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh my God. Greg, thank you again for joining me on the platform, my friend, man. I mean, you always come through for me, man. I really appreciate it, Greg.
I appreciate you too, bro. Honestly.
All right, everybody listen. As I always say, do right by others, not because there's some material gain or some accolades to be had by it. Do right by others because it's the right, the humane, and the godly thing to do. Because even when no one else is watching you, God Almighty is watching you. As my mom always used to say, he sits high, but he looks low. Know that I love each and every one of you who loves truth, but know that the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, remember to stay righteous. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. Thank you all. We're out of here. Peace.
Told you to walk away. That was my first and last mistake. I'm blue without your face. But what can I do? 'Cause I'm just a sinking ship, and you're just a pair of lips that I've lost.